Welcome to A Corporate Time with Tom and Dan. I'm Tom.
I am Dan. If you like watching podcasts, we would urge you to head over to either twitch.com/TomandDanLive or youtube.com/TomandDan and just like and subscribe our podcast because we have a video component. We're live Monday through Friday from right around 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. and it's really fun. You can watch. Chat room's great. There are great people in there. You can talk to them and you can find out basically all the behind the scenes stuff before anybody else does because you get that behind the scenes feed.
And I never plug our socials, Tom and Dan Live on
Everywhere.
Instagram, Facebook, Twitch,
TikTok, at Tom and Dan Live. TikTok has great videos by Melissa. Instagram Reels, if you like funny stuff. There are thousands of videos and little shorts and cartoons. And
our personal Instagrams, Daniel's Mediocre Dan, I'm Mediocre Tom on Instagram. We post on there as well.
We do
so
indeed.
You can follow us on that. And in studio,
if you want to see how fat and gray I am, you can head on over to at Mediocre Dad.
Well, in studio with us is Daniel's wife, Andrea Dennis. How you doing, Andrea?
I'm here again, much to my
Oh, wow, that was an answer. That was an answer, right? How are you doing?
Why are you there
I
again?
am here again. That's what Maisie said.
Yeah.
Like,
isn't that what Maisie
am I your default, like, oh, man, we forgot to schedule somebody?
No. We're just,
see if she's available.
We did a single Crystal show yesterday.
Yeah, we're pre-recording some shows when we're on vacation, so we were just kind of moving around guests everywhere. So you fell into the rotation. We don't have that many guests.
No, we don't have that many friends
to pick from. Like there's probably.
Well, there are many, but like some of them we have in, and we're like, ooh, can't do that again.
And some never showed up again. We lost track of.
Business Baby, Kristrima. You know what? Like, I'll be honest about the Kristrima one, and I think even if she heard this, I wouldn't be offensive. She sobered up and realized this show was not for her. I'm not kidding. Dude, she told us.
Well, she was on the show after she quit drinking, and she told us.
No. That was early on. That's called the pink clouds.
Okay.
I know about this in therapy. You go through this area of pink clouds but then once she got to the real sobriety.
Oh, then she's like, I'm done.
She's like, I'm done with it. I'll never call it into that again. But yes, my wife is, hey, wife, how are you?
I'm pretty good.
Do you prefer, Tom and I talk about this all the time, do you prefer to be called wife or Andrea?
It doesn't matter.
Okay, see, that's the right answer, but I think to Crystal, it does matter.
I've thought about this before.
Because she prefers to be called Crystal, right?
Well, okay. We should just use your first name because the people that listen to the show know you by first name. All right. But I'm old school radio.
Oh, you're right.
Where I got so used to saying my wife, Crystal, because
it's like me resetting the topic.
Yes.
Why do I do that?
It's old school radio. It's like it's left over from what we were learning in broadcasting, which
is so old now.
We aren't. Man, I feel it.
It's like you need to explain to you can't just say Andrea because people are like, what if there's a new listener? They're like, who's Andrea? And you're like, my wife Andrea, and that's it. I got so used to saying my wife Crystal.
At least this is a podcast, so they could go back. And
It doesn't make any sense. I'm just saying it's
you
it's left
used
over
to get
from
on me about that more. Did you just give up at some point and be like, God, this is dumb old man. Like he can't.
No,
because you used to tell me, like, why are you giving out the number? Why are you doing that? And we don't really do that anymore. You just kind of let me do it.
Well, you also don't want to talk to people on the phone.
Well, it's like telling a baseball player, like, why are you tapping your hand and your feet all the, it's like their process.
Right. It's like the superstition. It's what I do,
And so you doing this is part of the process of even talking.
True.
So if you stop doing that, then it kind of throws that off. Like, why throw it off?
Have you noticed,
it's a tiny nothing, really.
Have you noticed that you and I, like, have a certain way we do things almost every single morning that's almost exactly the same? Like in here, it's weird.
Well, even when we intro, we say our names, like I'm Tom, I'm Dan. Like we don't need to do that, but it's part of the process.
I'm not doing it anymore.
No, it's like they know who we are, but it's the baseball player putting tar on his helmet, or like, or tapping his bottom of his cleats. He's just part of what he does every time he goes to bat.
Yeah.
So he has to just keep doing it. Because he's an old superstitious baseball player.
I am very superstitious, like especially in baseball.
Andrea, back to you.
Yes.
Let's talk.
We have a series of questions here. We're going to grill you. welcome to the grill zone.
Okay, I'm here.
Daniel mentioned about and this is some advice that I feel like everybody could benefit from. And even our kids could benefit from this. And I've seen people do it with houses, and I've seen them work their way up to mansions.
You're talking about our friend Jim Colbert.
Where you buy and sell houses and you live in them for a couple years. By the way, a couple years, you don't have to pay capital gains tax on the, you just dump it into the next house. And if you keep moving up, I mean, so you've kind of done this with jobs your whole life, where you've kind of gone from one job to another and just moved the way up. Not in the same company, but
I think
in
you're
different
very
companies.
much a never enough type of person, right?
Well, for a person who I superly hate change, and I know superly is probably not the right word, but
no, I think it's accurate in this.
I do not like change, but my grandfather, who is still alive, he is 101.
That is insane. Your grandfather, I need to meet that man.
I don't even know if we can. You've met him once, but I don't. Man, we should really get him in here.
You guys would probably have to go to him.
Yeah, we could. We should.
Recently he's fallen a couple times. If you want to go like first of the year, because I think he's doing pretty good.
He's still, pretty
he's
good,
very
but,
active. Beautiful girlfriend. His girlfriend is like supermodel.
I'd love to have a conversation with a 101-year-old man that knows more about technology than me. And is still active. I mean,
he
really
still lives on his own.
But he really knows a lot about Florida. That's where he really excels, is that he's a Florida man through and through, and not like Florida man headlines. He's more of a preserve an Indian burial
Florida
ground.
cracker.
Make sure that this shell mount isn't destroyed by rapscallions. Let's make sure that this trail that's been here for hundreds of years is preserved and well marked.
He cleaned up a grave site in the Ocala National Forest. Like, he had to walk like a mile and a half just to get to it, but he'd
bring tools out there and
cleaned it up because
he
just didn't
clean around
it to be preserved.
each of the stone.
So WUCF did a whole
That's insane.
There are all these stone,
and he was like 100 when he did that.
He was in his 90s.
99, maybe.
That's insane.
But so he gave me advice.
Like, I can't even take the garbage out. Right? Let's go through a few things. Like, I can't even.
Does it bother your husband is weaker than your grandfather?
Oh my God. He can beat me up right now.
The other day you said,
I'd like to see that.
Oh my God, you fall off a bike. If you land on top of me, I'm dead.
The other day I went out and you were like, "Oh, I'll clean up the kitchen." I came back.
I forget the intention,
the
but what was my intent? You're an intent guy. You're an intent man.
Yeah. He said he was going to.
But then you saw me cleaning up the kitchen, and then it didn't register with you.
It registered. I was like, "Oh, you're cleaning the kitchen."
Yeah, well, I don't need to do it now.
Excellent.
Anyway, so he gave me advice back in the day, something along the lines of change jobs when you feel like you are bettering yourself.
Like when you need to grow more.
Yeah.
Almost.
And so that I took that to heart early. And my first job, I was in college and I worked for Target.
Yeah.
And I had never had a job. I'd never had a retail job or anything. And so I worked there and then made some just connections with some of the managers that were there, and they always wanted me in their section because I did a good job. I didn't know how to do
not what I
anything
heard.
less.
I heard it was a lot of the old,
Come on.
Can I make that motion on the? I did it low.
Yeah.
And so then they called me. Some of the managers moved over to Old Navy, and they called me and they said, "Hey, do you want to come work at Old Navy? We'll give you more money." And as a college
and then the
student,
other managers, they're trying to snipe you away from it. They're
that's
a mutiny. That's a textiles mutiny.
We want the BJ girl. Sorry, I only said it because your husband said it.
Technically, I didn't say it. I just made the motion.
Okay, sorry.
Oh my gosh. So so they called me, and so and said, "Hey, come over here. We'll pay you more money." They worked around my college schedule.
And that's peak Old Navy. And what I mean by that is we're talking, who's that blonde lady? Fairchild. Morgan Fairchild was in the commercials. And they had that dog.
The Fleece.
What was the dog?
Performance
Fleece. And what was his name? Buddy?
I don't remember.
Or what was the name of the Old Navy dog? That's going to drive me crazy.
Yeah, it was, height early 2000s. So probably 2000.
And this is where I learned. It blew my mind that Old Navy was part of Gap, which was part of
Banana Republic.
I didn't realize that all three of those companies were the same deal.
I think I knew you when you worked at Old Navy.
Yeah, so I worked. So my schedule. I would work at the radio station. I would have to get at the radio station at 4 a.m. I would work the radio station. I did Magic 107.7. Then I would go to school, and then I would do Old Navy at night.
Not very much.
So the
that's a joke. That's a joke.
I would be leaving to the radio station, and kids were coming back in from like partying all night.
Yeah,
like be like, bye.
Yeah, like it was weird because when I met you and we wanted to date, it was kind of hard to hang out because you were very like because
they would
maximizes.
schedule me a lot.
I mean, you know, when I compare her to you, I compare you guys a lot. There are aligning logical characteristics that you both have, and certainly a lot of differences. I would say Tom's BJ's are better. But I think that
I do slap happy.
Not
everybody knows what that is, but
like
I'll let you slap happy.
I like spit play. So he likes to stay busy. You are exactly the same way.
Right,
you like to stay.
You
like to get your stuff going.
Right. My problem in general is like my list in my head. I just want to get it done so then I can sit and like enjoy, but the list is never done.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Well, because you keep adding to it.
That's also my fault because I could help the list a little bit, but I don't know.
And allow me to like sit and read a book. But.
So was that your first experience of like, oh, this other company will offer me more money and I'm going to just follow the money?
Yeah. So I worked with Old Navy and I graduated college with my degree in communications, and I had to kind of make a choice because I wasn't getting like scholarship money here anymore. And so Daniel, we were together.
This is my favorite thing is that like one of the greatest things that you'll find if you ever enter a relationship with me is that I'm very good at real talk you, and I'm gonna real talk your dreams. I'm gonna real talk your dreams.
Yeah, I love doing that. I convinced Crystal not to go to college, and she still hates me to this day. Every time. I'm like,
this is what you're about to hear why we are business partners, because we both like to control women.
So after four years of going to school, focusing in communications and radio and TV broadcasting, I graduated in May of 2006. And
the Old Navy's dog was Magic.
Oh,
by the way.
I should have known that.
Yeah, I should have known that.
Daniel sat me down because I had to decide, like, is the radio station still going to just pay me $10 an hour?
Well,
like,
no, from what I understand, and I hopefully I'm allowed to talk about this. From what I understand, there was another lady that had been brought in that was doing like a scheduling job or something. It was an older lady. Do you remember this? And I
took her job.
And you did take her job,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
So you took her job.
Right.
But they didn't they not give you what she was getting, the money?
Yeah.
So they had a lady.
They love doing that.
This is classic radio.
Right,
so they had a lady, like an older lady, like in her late 30s.
They
or
saw
40s.
that I could do what she was doing.
Exactly. And this lady was like, had the binder and dressed in like pantsuits and stuff, you know, and it was like a real producer thing. And then they realized that they could get the young girl who does it better, more energetic, faster, with a younger vibe, which they needed on the radio station, right? You're always looking for younger. And they slid you in, and maybe I'm remembering that wrong, but I remember there was a little bit of bitterness, or the beginning of the bitterness, because they didn't set you up the way they set that lady up. They got rid of the lady, and then they slide Andrea in, and they go, you get all of this lady's work, but you get none of her money. That is radio, guys.
Right.
100% that is radio.
And
after 20 years, you'll get her money, but then we're going to slide a new one in. That's our business model.
So, it kind of is.
I kind of respect that.
And by the way, not just radio, that is a lot of business models.
So I had a choice. So the radio station, that was their offer. And then Old Navy was like, hey, we can make you a manager, but you have to go out to the West Oaks Mall.
Yeah.
So if you don't live here and you don't know what the West Oaks Mall is, the West Oaks Mall used to actually be a really decent mall. It was like
God, you said really, and the best we got was decent.
I mean, it was a decent mall.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
And so I had to make a choice. I was graduated college. I needed money, and so I gave up. Daniel and I talked about it, and I gave up my dream to be on the radio, and I said thank you.
I don't think you and I've ever really talked about that in length on the show, but
no.
Do you remember that day? And I'm not trying to dig up sad feelings, because obviously you're far more successful in the paths that you're going now than you ever would have been. I shouldn't say that. That's kind of rude. But I'm just saying, you would have never been as successful because of them, not you. You know what I mean?
Right. I think I came into radio probably 5 or 10 years too late. the heyday of radio was waning when I graduated.
So you married
in, like,
the heyday of radio.
We're still on radio.
Well, no, like
we got to tread lightly. We have to tread lightly
no,
here.
I wasn't. No, not talk
I'm
radio.
joking.
I was like, wanted to do music radio.
Yeah.
Everything then was becoming syndicated. So, do I move to Podunk, Minnesota, and do 5 stations out of my little apartment in Podunk, Minnesota?
Yeah.
Or do I, I have this relationship with this guy that I think is going to go somewhere. Do I take the money and go to retail, even though I'm like,
what did you think of my advice I was giving you? Because you had listened to the monsters, you knew of like Real Radio and everything. Did you? And you can.
It was a hard pill to swallow.
But answer honestly, like when I told you that, were you just kind of like, what the hell is? I don't know.
No,
what the hell
I think you had my best interest in, but it was like a hard pill for me to swallow because that was what I wanted to do since I was in 4th grade.
Yeah.
I had wanted to be.
We had very similar dreams, and I think that's one of the
radio.
reasons why we're married. I don't even think I've ever articulated that on the show. But one of the weird things about Andrea and I is we love the idea of the DJ presenting the new song that you've never heard.
I have tapes of myself when I was younger.
When I was DJing, yeah.
Making
Me
radio.
Too. Me too. I would pretend to be a DJ and present like songs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then we had an intense love of music and a lot of the same bands, namely like bands like Faith No More and these alternative bands, Deftones and stuff like that. So it was weird. Yeah, I can remember that fairly vividly, and I remember you being very upset.
Yeah, and I wasn't upset with Daniel, but it was like he was presenting the facts.
Oh, they want
to
your
me.
DJ voice, and I know you have one. Can you give them a Sunshine Report?
Oh,
She used to do. Do you know that Andrea used to do the
They
Sunshine
used to
Report?
play,
What is that?
James Taylor. Here comes
Hold on.
the
Is that what you
sun.
need?
No, it's the Beatles, right?
Yeah, that's the beat.
And for those of you who don't know, Magic
107.7.
It used to, we used to not be able to play like Brick House because people would lose their mind. If you played the song Brick House, that was too racy for Magic 107.7.
They're saying that her ass is built out of brick.
we got so much hate when we had Bob Saget on, and then people went to his show, and he is not like Danny Tanner like back in the day.
Oh, he's filthy man.
He
was a filthy man.
It was like a big deal.
Here, give me a Sunshine Report.
So they would play this song, and I have to like open the curtains, and I'd be like, "Good morning, Magic listeners. Today looks like a great day. Go out and enjoy it."
Or
you
should do that for our show. That's how I was
Will you give us a couple Sunshine Reports?
Huh?
Will you give us a couple?
If that's what you want to.
I already brokered
liners.
a deal with nationally touring comedian Bob Zaney. On January 7th, he will be delivering his very own monthly Zany Report on Tom and Dan.
I want them like that, but dirty. Because that's where the money's at.
Hey, Tom.
And that, anyway. So,
that's
so
hilarious.
yeah, so I went out to the West Oaks Mall.
God damn, the old Sunshine Report.
That was an interesting vibe out there. I had physical fights in my store.
Yeah, tell me about it.
I had you tell somebody there was just fights and guns, and it's where two.
They shut them all down a
Rough.
lot.
for those who don't know, this is a predominantly Asian type neighborhood. Not joking.
It's where two predominant gangs would meet up and have fights, and
they shut the mall down.
They would shut the
call
mall
me.
down.
They'd be like, the mall shut down.
And I'm this 21-year-old, woman trying to be the manager of this store. I had poop smeared on clothes.
Oh, yeah. She would come home.
Smooth the poops.
You have no idea, Tom.
Smeared the poop.
Tom,
in the boys section, because it was right outside of the bathroom.
People would like crap in their hand. I'm going to tread lightly. They'd crap in their hand, and it'd be, it's not solid. And then they would just take it like you're high-fiving all the shirts and just go down the shirts with a poop hand.
Well, it's funny in retail, because I used to work at Champ Sports with Vince Taylor.
Shout out to Vince Taylor.
When you worked your way up to a manager, West Oaks was the first position you could think of. Like, you could be a manager now, West Oaks. It was like
you can survive West Oaks.
Yeah, you got to cut your teeth in Vietnam.
It was like a boot camp for managers,
Right,
and they'd send the new managers to West Oaks.
Right. But then that's when Gap Incorporated underwent a big change. So I think I was there maybe a year. They went a big change, and they let go any last managers that were promoted, and they kind of they gave other managers that job, and so I was cut out of that. So
was this the one that because you were the youngest?
Well, because I was the last manager to be promoted within the region, so they let say the last 5.
Also, I think it's important because I think a lot of people think that she's just maybe you are very tough. Don't get me wrong, but I think that people think that these things happen. You're like, oh well, I just got. That was very. I remember how upset you were.
Yeah, they gave me like a 6 month or 6 weeks, 12-week severance, but I couldn't enjoy myself. Like, I was so distraught by the fact that I didn't have a job. What am I going to do? I'm right out of college. My internships were in radio. I gave that up for this job, and now they're letting me go.
And you were pretty crushed about the manager thing because you had worked hard to get to that position.
Right.
You're taking on more responsibility. And how long did you have it before they cut?
I think it was probably about a year.
It seemed quick though. I remember.
Did you like retail?
No, I didn't. I didn't like it. I didn't like the hours, but still, it's like a crush to your well, what am I going to do now? I need to find myself a job because how am I going to support
It doesn't matter
myself?
What anyone says. If any job I have, if something happens and I'm asked to not do it, whether it's my fault or not, I'm going to take some responsibility of that and think it's my fault.
Yeah.
No one will ever change that.
And you're also you're like you said, what are you going to do?
Right.
Yeah.
So,
did you think at all okay, I tried the retail thing. Maybe I'll go back to radio. Maybe I'll go back to something in my degree, which is communication.
Yeah, I mean, I reached out to people that I knew and was trying to make connections. And funnily enough, one of the HR managers that had to let me go at Old Navy, her husband was also an HR manager, and he had just been hired by a new company coming into the state of Florida, IKEA.
I remember.
Yeah, this is a big one. Now, this is where you and I, and I'm going to tell this part, but we hit a bit of an impasse with IKEA. You and I.
So
we'll get there.
Was it when IKEA first? Because it was funny. Is I thought IKEA had been there for a way longer.
So IKEA has been around for a really long time, but they put a store in Sunrise, Florida. That was the first store in Florida. They opened that one, and then Orlando was the second one. So in November of 2007, that's when they opened the store. But I was brought on, I would say 6 months before they opened the store. We were at a satellite office getting the store ready, helping hire. So I was brought on as a retail manager in the rugs,
the opening.
And,
okay.
Yeah. Because I had that clothing background, they brought me where the curtains are, where the rugs. I did that.
Textiles, yeah. I
really
that.
wanted to do the communications part of it, like the marketing person, because each store has their own marketing person. But because I didn't have I was
marketing
still right out
of
college. So I went on. I was like, okay, sure, fine. And then so we opened the store. I got to go travel around with IKEA to go see different stores.
How's IKEA as a company? Because they do some weird. There's some weird things,
some weird stuff,
some weird European things that we're not used to, right?
They got a lot of manifestos. You'll get a handbook.
I still actually have the handbook because it's really interesting. So Ingvar,
the handbook reads very old European ways.
It's called the furniture.
If you're picking up what I'm laying down.
It's called the Furniture Dealer's Testament. So Ingvar Kamprad, who it was he's passed away now.
Say it the way it's supposed to be said.
What?
You say it the proper way.
He wrote it, and you go through this thing. IKEA is a Swedish company. When I was with them,
oh my God, the
really
chat room just called the book "Mine Couch." Damn, Melissa, that's funny.
I really liked them. I mean,
it was a good company.
$3, you could have a meal. As an employee, you got discounts. And I really worked with some really good people that I still talk to. Some of the people that I hired now live in Sweden and work for the company.
Now you
in
thought
Sweden.
and you knew right that I had hitched my wagon to IKEA because she was rapidly, and I mean rapidly, excelling in IKEA. And
moving up the ladder,
right? Yeah. So I started
and little Danny meal ticket. I looked over at it, and I'm like, I could be living in Sweden in a couple of years.
I mean,
I'll be living in a goddamn igloo. I have all the pee-pee dogs.
I have no idea what.
Retail pays really well. I think it's, people don't understand. Retail pays really, really good.
Yeah, she was getting, like, she got to a point
well,
with
when you're
IKEA.
like general manager.
No, but she got to a point with IKEA where she
a department
was making
manager, I was making
more than I was making at the radio station.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
That's not the retail I know.
Dude, they were
Champ Sports doesn't pay that.
They were emptying the bank account, and then the parties they would throw. We would go to these crazy.
One year they gave every employee, which was like 350 employees, a bike.
Like a badass, really? Like a $2,000, like an awesome bike.
One year they gave a soda stream,
like a nice soda stream, like a metal big ass soda stream.
Do you think that was just because they were starting in a new area?
No,
and they wanted to.
If
they still do that? Like
I don't know if they still do.
What about your one guy? I don't want to say people's name. Starts with an S.
Yes. So my direct
this guy
manager
is what Andrea was kind of following his path, and this guy was straight destroying. I've never seen somebody do this.
So you can probably look him up now because I'm going to say what he did. He moved up from he started in a Virginia store, came down and helped do Orlando. He is now over IKEA Canada.
Like
he is the full guy.
The whole country
of
of Canada. He's the dude.
Yeah.
And that was somebody that you worked with.
He was
daily.
my direct manager. He's
a good dude.
His wife worked for the company as well. I'm still in touch with
So he's
them.
making bank.
Oh.
I
tons.
Probably can't even imagine.
How many stores are in?
I don't know how many stores are in Canada, but
a lot.
I mean, just the growth of IKEA.
So you and I mean, not to get into our personal business, but I think people will want to hear a bit of this. There was a little bit of tension because I think creatively at that store, it just wasn't. You needed you hadn't found what you were
I still
enjoying.
really wanted to go do communications.
I think I enjoyed the money. Oh man, the money.
The marketing person actually went out on maternity leave twice, like back to back. She kind of had kids like Crystal did, so I was slotted.
Maternity leave? That sounds European.
yeah.
And she got a long time, and so I slotted into her position because they knew they were giving me a trial basis as the marketing person. But you're still working those retail hours, and you're still
Christmas is
putting in those long. Yeah, IKEA
Christmas
doesn't do crazy sales.
I never saw her.
But yeah,
like it would be like
but you just have the influx of people, and so.
And also a lot more poo-poo. Like any retail store, I think, has poo-poo.
Yeah.
All of them.
A lot of working on Christmas and poo-poo.
So I found a friend who worked in a PR firm, and she's like, "Hey, come work with me for this PR firm."
And this is what I call we got to figure this out. Like, I got to find the thing.
Right. But I had to have a sit down with Daniel. I had to take a pay cut to go to this PR firm and kind of start over.
He told me he was bitching to me every day.
Because you were making more money than me. Like
right.
you were, she was making more money
to...
than me, which is, by the way, any man that thinks, I don't want my wife making more money than me. You're the dumbest fool ever. I almost cursed. You are the stupidest MF. I want my wife to make 9 times what I make. 100 times what I make.
It's your money.
Yeah.
They're making it. The pile is the same.
God almighty, you idiots.
Yeah, but for my own mental health, not that we talked about mental health back then, but I was like, I have to get out of this retail world. If I don't cut the cord now, I'm gonna be this person that my whole life is retail.
Yeah, that's what you do reach up. Crystal kind of was because she worked for Foot Locker for so many times, and for so many years.
I bet she's stuck.
Dude, shoe stores see doo-doo all the time.
And she saw the lifers, and she's like, if I make that next move to manager and general manager, I'm a lifer, and I don't want to be this for the rest of my life. And then so she's like, I have to leave now. And I was just like, God, just become a manager. And she's like, I see it as like a prison. Once you step in, it's like the money's too good to leave. And then
and if you have kids, you can't take that. You can't take that pay
So you could make an argument that you could make an argument that if we had a completely dysfunctional and horrible relationship, I would have leaned on you so hard and begged you to stay there, and we probably, I don't know if our marriage would have lasted, or you'd be miserable or whatever, but I mean...
To grow in IKEA, you have to go to different stores. Like, I have friends in Tampa. Some of them have gone back to California. You have to move up in the company, but you have to be willing to move, and we weren't going to move with...
Yeah. Because they're like, okay, you're the manager of Clearwater, and you're like, well, I live in Orlando. Well, like, do you want to be a manager?
You don't know.
We had friends that say, we need you in Amsterdam.
Yeah. It's
that's
travel.
who we were talking about earlier, right? And they were in a position as a family where I think they could go, right?
Yeah.
And so had we been in a position to do that, there is a little fantasy part of me that thinks had it not been retail, but the way that they treated you and the amount of money that you were making, and had we been able to go to Europe and live, that's not bad. That would have been pretty fun. That would have been a cool... That would have been an interesting path for us to forge.
Yeah.
So you take a pay cut, you start in this PR firm.
Right.
And
so I'm on the other side of like the radio and TV business. I'm on the PR side trying to like get radio and TV people to have my clients come on. And I realized very quickly I did not like that kind of work. I did not like cold calling people and saying, hey.
Funny, I was going to mention cold calls because that's another thing that aligns so strictly. I don't know if there's a logical link up with that or what, but I know you hate cold calling, and I know Andrea hates cold calling. Both of you almost an equal amount of dread when you mention cold calling.
Yeah, so
I like my calls warm.
I'm a warm call man.
Hey, when they call up, they're like,
I like them damn near hot.
They're like, I want to buy. I'm like, good.
I knew why you're calling.
Yeah, I was not a salesperson. I just realized very quickly, and it wasn't their fault. It was just not the job for me, and so I called some friends that I knew over at WESH, which is the NBC station here. They had a position to do their internet stuff, so that was kind of the beginning of breaking stories on the internet and reporters sending you stories, and the internet and the apps being the place to get your news.
Yeah.
And so they were just growing that team, and so I went there. But getting up, it was right. I was doing the morning shift right as Daniel left.
Yeah, it was wild.
And so for me to get up at 3:00 in the morning, and I would get off at 1:00, I would come home, I'd fall asleep for a little bit, but I needed to go to bed by 8:00. It got really tough.
That was a tough one.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I had a friend reach out to me who worked for Bright House. So Bright House was the cable company.
Well, talk about WESH for a second, too.
Okay.
I mean, let's go back for a second. The other thing that was really crazy about WESH is that it was at the height of the Casey Anthony trial.
So, yeah.
And Andrea would come home some days and it'd be like, can we just like not talk at all? Because I've been writing stories about a baby's murder for 6 hours.
It was Casey Anthony. Then you got hit with the Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman.
Yeah, that's right.
Like the gal that burned down the senator. There was just a lot of
that one's funny. I can make jokes about that stupid old bitch. I can make
that
jokes
one
about
sticks
that.
with you.
The crackhead in the whole tree.
Andrea was very...
That's funny.
It pissed off Andrea so bad.
So
Andrea's like, I'll beat that lady. I was like, why are you so
It was
upset?
the two kids that were found burning on the Katy Way Trail.
Oh, that was a rough one. That was a rough one.
There were, and
don't buy drugs.
As the person, I would get the police reports, and I would have to go through what is appropriate in this police report for you as the general audience to read. So I'm reading some really
horrible things,
horrible stuff that sticks with you. And I didn't have a kid at the time.
I'd never take pictures of it and send it to him. No, I'm kidding. I would not. I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear one thing about it.
Right. If I wanted to have a kid down the road or something, I'm reading about
autopsies,
baby killing, rape, and murder,
bullet exit wounds, bleed outs.
It's just really rough. And then TV stations were they just want clicks. So you're making slideshows that are 100 slides long of...
Talk about your headlines you'd have to write.
I mean, just any headline. You have to just write headlines to make people click, SEO on those
But you
headlines.
you were completely conflicted. Because she would be writing headlines, and then we'd have text conversations where she's like, well, I'm not going to say that, or I can't say that. I mean, it's hard, right?
Yeah, because you're writing, you can't give away everything.
Well, you also don't want to go against, you don't want to be clickbaity, Andrea.
Well, and you have to write to AP standards and everything. So, and you're taking what a reporter says and turning it into something that's digestible. So a reporter speaks, and they write how they speak on TV, but that's different than how we read on TV.
And you also didn't you get all the emails about the newscasters?
Yes, I would have to filter.
This newscaster has her titas jacked up, and I am calling the police.
Right. How they looked, how they dressed, how they deliver the news. If somebody slurps one more time, I'm changing the channel. If you broke in for breaking weather or breaking news and you preempted their Entertainment Tonight or their
baseball,
whatever show, they would lose their minds.
Don't get in front of the soap operas. You're going to get a couple of emails.
Slow news day.
If you send an email about a newscaster's blouse, you've wasted your life.
No, you know what's funny, dude?
Yeah, I mean, that's
you know what's
absurd.
funny? Proof positive, though. What's really funny about that? I agree with you 100%. But based on Andrea, they all get read, don't they? Like
yeah,
all that feedback,
gotta read
all
it.
that feedback gets read, and people get in trouble for that. I remember.
Not if Tom Van was running. I want to send those to junk.
I remember you telling me
well,
of
somebody's
emails.
got to read it, and then you decide whether you send it to a person or if you just
Any
delete
listener delete because well, they're all crazy.
How many chat room wants to know how many times you had to jump into Jeopardy? They hate that.
Well, I wasn't on Channel 9. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Entertainment Tonight.
I don't know my channels. I don't know my channels.
Yeah.
And then you caught the tail end of having to, and this is kind of interesting because it's a news fact, but you were like one of the first people that realized that tonight shows or late night shows were going to become a series of little clips that Andrea would edit out and put them all over the Wesh or whatever. Because
you're trying to grow their social media.
Yeah, she was there the beginning that they started dissecting the quintessential late night show. Because now it's just a clip show. It might as well just be The Roots and Jimmy Fallon sing a Christmas song with Mariah Carey. It's a 2-minute video.
Right. So you're on your own newscast finding those things, or you're working with. So Wesh is a part of Hearst, and so if your Hearst station in Vermont had a crazy moose story, they will send you that clip, and then you put it online and write a funny thing on social media.
Crazy moose.
So you can get it shared and your own stuff.
So was it about just the job itself? You're like, I don't want to do this forever.
Well, I also had a friend. So I had a friend reach out and say, hey, you want to work a 9 to 5? You're still in, the writing, the marketing, communications field, but you can work a 9 to 5. You have weekends off. You're not writing stories about murder.
But who are you working for?
Yeah.
So then that's when I went to cable. So
for me, when I heard that, I'm just telling you the truth. When she's like, I'm going to work for the cable company, I was like, oh, God, I can't tell people that. I can't tell people where you work.
Bright House.
It's like a digital shoe store.
Yeah, no, Bright House. I couldn't tell. I was afraid. I didn't like telling people. I'd be like, well, where's your wife work? She works at a chicken guy. I wouldn't say anything but Bright House because people hate the cable company.
Bright House as a company to their employees
was
good.
They were very good
to their employees.
They were.
As a cable company, people had their opinions. So I went to work there. I was doing internal communications for them. So I didn't have to customer face. I was doing anything just to tell our 8,000 employees across the country what was going on.
Including the porno channel.
Everything. We got
everything. I could go, and if I wanted to load up Black Valley Girls, and it was on the thing, free, any movie I want. That's a dangerous game to play with me.
Free porno.
Free, but it's like big porno. Big HD 4K, dude, from Bright House.
Right.
Bikini Car Wash. I could stream it anytime I wanted to. Bikini Car Wash 2, 3, and 4.
I really loved Bright House. I loved my boss. I loved my boss's boss.
I love your boss.
I actually just came from lunch with them because I still talk to them, hang out with them to this day.
And they know us, and they listen to the show, and they've been to our events.
Loved them.
Yeah,
but
they're good folks.
Bright House sold to a parent company. So it was at Bright House, Time Warner sold to Charter Communications and became Spectrum.
Yeah. Big business.
So
big,
after
big,
2 years at Bright House, then it sold to big business. It was totally different.
Yeah. It's like
my
all your
job
bosses change instantly.
People were having to leave or being asked to leave left and right.
And I know our listeners know this one. When you know that you're going to get a promotion and that's sort of set in motion, but now that it's been sold, your entire path is different now. Like that's gone. That's gone.
And all the equity you built with the manager because
no, they're gone.
Yeah,
everybody's gone. So
you have no one to talk to.
So my boss's boss, instead of being local, is now in Connecticut and has no idea. They would come down here from Connecticut and think they could get from Orlando to Tampa in 1 hour. They'd be like, "Oh."
Well, Tom thinks that too. I mean, no offense. I love you, buddy.
They just didn't know the Central Florida area, and we were over Tampa, St. Pete area, and they think why does it take you 4 hours to get, from
Do you know how many people
Ocala to the coast, the other coast? Like it was just, they just didn't know a lot, and I would have stayed. But I honestly was so bored because they were still going through this merger.
You just take that Spectrum.
they just didn't know what to do with the areas. They had gone from, it was Bright House at 8,000 employees to like 200,000 employees. They're trying to get the details down of how these areas were going to work.
Also, the changes that were being implemented were so slow. Like, eventually they did. Hopefully, I'm okay saying this, but eventually they did get like where she was going back in queue. But they're like, I know it was going to take this amount of time before. Now it's going to be like it's going to take like 4 years.
Right.
Okay, hold on a second.
And then you're like, it's going to take a while for this company to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be involved
Turning
with this.
a cruise ship.
Right. And they did more like events. I then became like an event planner.
Oh,
and I hated
another thing that I'd like to line up with you.
Right.
Logical people hate planning events.
I hated planning events, and they were like
horrible.
They were giving back events, and we're building, kind of like.
You did good.
Not
I
like
will tell you,
you
did a good job with it.
I did a good job because I'm organized and stuff, but I hated planning events.
Yeah, that's honest.
See, this is where me and Andrea differ, because if this happened, this is when I would turn into my all-time favorite thing, which is an employee ghost, where they pay me, but I'm not even like, I just slowly disappear.
You can't.
And then I disappear in the paperwork of a giant corporation, and they just
where is he? No one knows.
Keep paying me.
He's a ghost in the machine.
It's an anomaly.
It's a ghost in the machine.
Every once in a while, I'll write an email. Anyways,
no one knows.
Good.
So after 4 years, I was just so bored, and so then again, use your connections. I have a friend.
Now, keep in mind that how would you categorize this? Would you say that the majority of the arguments that we've had have been over this, like you wanting to get a new job?
Yeah, Daniel hates when I come to him and I'm like, so.
Yeah, I do. Well, I don't hate it.
Well,
That's not fair.
It kind of builds up, and I'm like,
what do I suffer from? Crippling anxiety.
I'm like, I already have, and I have learned over the years to come to him when I already have an exit plan or when there's already a plan in place.
That's what Tom does. He waits. He doesn't want to he doesn't want me to blow my smokestack before he gives me the plan.
I don't want to be
point,
like,
I tell him after the event, I'm like, the event was a success. You're like,
okay. Good to know.
Right. I don't want to tell you that I'm so unhappy and bored. So I'm like, hey, a friend from WUCF, which is the PBS station here, called me and has a communications role available. I'm going to go apply and interview for it.
That's right, the UCF job. Yeah. It's so funny because I remember every one of these things.
Weird?
I remember
she
the
came
time.
all the way back to UCF radio.
Yeah.
It's like she was in charge of the entire Blanken station, right?
So I was communications manager for WUCF, so it's the TV, and then 89.9, which was the jazz radio station that's been out there for now like 45 years. So I would do the communications. That meant social media, any written communications, press releases, events.
That's hard, though.
And all of that. And
because this is back on. So now when you're working for that, it was like working with the radio station when a hurricane would come or something like that.
Right, yeah.
It was like, she's man on the clock now.
Right, and social media has changed so much since the beginning of it, and you want clicks from it, you want engagement, and you just cannot beat the algorithm, unfortunately, as a company, and that's where a lot of pressure was, and it just it will burn you out.
Get us 1 million hits. And you're like, you don't understand. This is a 1 million hits is kind of like an anomaly. It just
It gave me a different perspective of social media, seeing you do it professionally. It's weird. Tom and I do it professionally, but I don't look at it like that, right? You doing it for a company really changed the value that I saw, because you would do things that should have been home runs and they wouldn't be.
Right.
And then you would do things that were dumb and they would be home runs.
Well, too.
Leading to me thinking, like, almost thinking that
it's all by chance.
Yeah, it is kind of the way it taught me, because you would struggle so hard to do these engagements for, like, let's say a Daniel Tiger thing or something.
Right.
And it just wouldn't pop. And I'd be like, what do you mean? So many kids watch Daniel Tiger on PBS. That's crazy. And then you do something else that shouldn't have hit.
Well,
and
PBS
it would just
has a weird audience. They have these ultimate young for the cartoons.
No
for
middle.
The wholesome.
There's no
and
middle.
then you have like ultimate old people who are watching, Lawrence Welk
it's like,
and all
it's
of
Death
that kind of stuff.
and Baby New Year are the only two people watching.
It's Old Young, my favorite porn camera.
So that was
Old
really, really tough. And then you have the pandemic happens and everybody goes home.
Oh, yeah.
And I realized I really like being home.
Yeah, work from home. Yeah.
I'm a one that, loves working from home. I thrive in that quiet environment. I'm organized. I can set my day.
You should
I
see
plan
her
out my day.
office now. Like she has like the multiple. She has like the mega screens, and then she gets.
It's made for you.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It is.
So,
and she's in our old studio, which is really kind of neat.
I changed. So during the pandemic, I changed my job completely because I wanted to stay home. I wanted to get out of that having to do social media communications. So what I thought I couldn't do years ago, I did at like 40 years old. I totally changed my job, and I wish I had done it years ago. I never knew that this like job existed.
And if you would like to see her, she is at, I believe you're at, you're switching between Diamond's Club and dancing. I think it's Tuesday, Thursday. But she does it at home. It's just a video screen. But there is an auto blow in there that you can use. And she has a pink wand, and when you tip, it is live. It is live tipping.
And you're some sort of scrumptious something.
Scrumptious. You're a scrumptious. Don't you ever call my wife scrumptious.
It's something like that.
So at this job, I started as a scrum master.
Oh yeah, that's it.
But now I'm a corporate project manager. So I've already moved to the corporate team. Because
you went back to school, right?
Well, I'm right out in the middle of my certification, and just trying to do that. And so my company has a corporate project management office. My boss is in Connecticut. I have 3 people in France, 1 in California.
I'm a certified female body inspector.
Now, would you like to work with us and be our office manager because we are disorganized?
I've tried that multiple Christmases. I would come in here and try to
Every Christmas she cleans your desk and you never notice.
Right. I just like piles. I tried to get my child to come in here and help you
she
clean.
said Maisie's going to get a summer job.
She's already hired. Free pinball whenever you want. And then we'll have guests come in that I obviously invited in, and I forgot.
No, that's me. He's dropping something off for me, but I think he's just sitting patiently.
The whole time I was like, I invited Dr. Powers for a meeting, and now I'm sitting making him wait.
No, I think he's just swinging something by for me, and he's just being very kind.
By the way, Dr. Powers from myeternalvitality.com, a great sponsor of ours. Andrea uses them.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
And if you have any hormone problems,
I feel bad for you, son. That's what I say.
Yeah, want some testosterone? They do a lot more, but
female hormones.
If you're having hormone problems, I feel bad for you, son. Dr. Powers got hormones, and you better get some. Or so, I don't know. I'll work on it.
Yeah.
Peptides, they do a lot. So it's myeternalvitality.com. Andrea, thanks so much for coming.
Yeah, appreciate you, babe.
I'll see you guys soon.
We will.
We need a guest tomorrow.
So we'll see you tomorrow.
I have a job I have to do. Didn't I just tell you about them all?
Get Maisie to come in.
All right.